what happens next with Israel Adesanya. That is 3 on the spin that he's lost.
He's been one of the most active and consistent champions for a hell of a long time. He's got nothing more to prove in this sport. I put him as the second best, just behind Anderson Silva. No, you don't want to be that guy that was a champion and then gets TKO'd back to back to back to back. Personally, I would like to see Adesanya hang it up.
Michael Venom Page is now messing about at middleweight, isn't he? Comes up in weight, takes on Shara Bullet and hands him his first defeat. If you love striking, if you love the nuances of striking, if you love watching someone just make someone dance to the tune that they want to put out there, watch Michael Venom Page against Shara Bullet.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, with all the hype that Shara Bullet had coming into this fight and the massive underdog that they put Michael Venom Page as, I was thinking, wow, what's going on here? And it was a bit of a Michael Venom Page coming out party, I believe, but I feel like it really reminded everyone who he is in this fight, and I was so happy for Michael. Great for UK MMA, great for Michael, possibly the best striker in the UFC on his day. Nobody's putting their hand up in that division, are they? The gap is astronomical right now between Tom and the rest. Nobody else is putting in any performances. No one's jumping off the paper. There's only one fight to make. We've mentioned it 10,000 times. Without that fight, I mean, where does it leave everyone? I think this card's a really tough sell. Looking at it from top to bottom, Adam, nothing is diving out of the page at me, and I think this is a tough pay-per-view to sell. No disrespect to them, there's much more exciting fights in that division to be had. And that I am looking forward to.
Welcome to Uncaged on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. I'm Adam Catterall, pleasure to be with you. Brendan Loughnane's in the house as well, and we're about to get stuck into a massive preview of UFC 312. We're also going to look back at UFC Saudi Arabia. Before we do so, you know the drill, all the housekeeping. Make sure you like and subscribe the YouTube channel. We're trying to grow here, and there's a lot of wicked MMA coming up over the next few months or so. And we'll hope to get you closer to the action. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the stuff that's coming your way. How is Dubai, my friend? I know I left you a week or so ago, but the sun is shining. The smile is on your face. I've seen that you've been on the treadmill this morning doing a little bit. Oh, you just don't stop, do you?
Well, I've converted you now, Adam, and I know that you secretly want to move here as well. So watch this space, Adam Catterall in Dubai, everyone.
Got to convince Mrs. Catterall and the kids to get out there, mate. But listen, beautiful setting. It's an MMA hub. It seems to be the centre of the universe where everybody coming through there and what have you, mate. So you never know. You never know. Stranger things have happened. Did you catch up with everything that was happening in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia at the weekend with the UFC rocking up in town?
I did, my friend, and you know, I'm sure there's there's a lot of talking points on the card, isn't there? Especially Adesanya, which I'm sure we're about to dive into. I've got my thoughts. I'm sure you've got your thoughts. So I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, great wins for the likes of Michael Venom Page. I thought the main card was a bit decision heavy. There was some good stuff coming off the back of the prelims as well, which we're going to get stuck into. But the major talking point is, of course, that main event where Israel Adesanya, for the first time in 12 fights, I think it was fighting without a UFC title being on the line. Still a main eventer, still a 5-round scheduled fight, but taking on the next generation. Nasruddin Imavov was the man standing across from him. And then in the second round, Nasruddin landed an overhand right, which led to the end of the fight. TKO finish in the second round. Israel Adesanya on the losing end of that. Now, there's loads to talk about off the back of it, but the immediacy is what next for Israel Adesanya. But before we get into that, listen, man, let's celebrate the win first. Let's celebrate the win for Nasruddin Imavov. A fantastic win for him. Now he's on since that no contest with Chris Curtis, he's on a lovely 4-fight streak. Good wins in there, a couple of finishes, one of which against the former champion. Nasruddin, what next for him? Any ideas?
I'll be honest, Adam, when this card was matched and this in particular fight, I seen it and I thought, that's a very tough fight for Adesanya. I've been a big fan of Imavov. I think he does everything very well. Young and hungry and, you know, Izzy was doing his thing. He was looking well. But, you know, this style, I seen, it was actually Kenny Florian who pointed this out before the fight. I was watching a breakdown and he did say he does this lean back thing. He's doing this lean back thing and it worked really well against Robert Whittaker. Lean back, bang. But guys are seeming to get onto this thing that he does now. And I feel like that was the kind of thing that got him caught in the fight. It was a little bit of a technical error. He was doing really well in the first round using his range. When Israel Adesanya has you at range, it's really difficult to break the range, but every now and then he will do this lean tendency that he has. And I feel like that's kind of what got him caught, because when you lean at him, I feel like you're off balance and you can't really move out the way. And with him being a tall middleweight, he seems to be able to do it and get out of the way. But here, I feel like his legs were caught underneath him. Imavov managed to close the distance really nice and land the shots. And once it hit the ground and pound was sensational. And it was a good stoppage in the end, in my eyes. And that's my take on it.
So what's the next thing for Imavov then? Off of a victory like that, what's the next thing for him?
If I'm Imavov,
I've got a suggestion for you.
Go on, throw it out there. I'll tell you what I think of it.
Right, listen, coming up this weekend, UFC 312, we've got the title fight in that division, haven't we? Right, so that's taking place. For me, the next guy in line right now, after what he did to Robert Whittaker, is Khamzat Chimaev.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
So with all due respect to Imavov, yeah, it's a great victory against Izzy, but there is this bottleneck that is appearing at the top of 185. Chimaev's the top of the bottleneck, so let him go. Imavov's in and around that mix, but there's also another fighter that's in and around that mix, and I think it's the perfect eliminator fight. For me, you team him up against Caio Borralho. That's what you do. You put them two boys in together. I think it's an absolutely fantastic fight, really good stylistically. You could do it in the middle of the year, and that might lead to something by the back end of the year where either one of them is challenging for a title, maybe against the Khamzat or against the Dricus/Sean, whoever comes out the back of that. That's what I'd do next with Imavov.
Wait, so hold on. So you'd put him in against Chimaev?
No, I put him in against Borralho. That's who I put Imavov in with. Imavov and Borralho. Chimaev is fighting for the title next. He doesn't need to fight again for me. He's just done Robert Whittaker. So Chimaev, sit there, wait until see what happens this weekend at 312. Whoever wins that, you're fighting Chimaev. Then I'd make that little eliminator between Imavov and Borralho. The winner of that then takes on the winner of whoever wins this weekend against Chimaev.
No, make him down for it. Listen, especially Borralho at the minute as well. He's looking like a world beater.
Super.
Young, hungry. The pair of them. I mean, I've been really impressed with both of them two guys. Chimaev has really put himself above everyone else with that Robert Whittaker win. I mean, I think we can all agree with that. The devastating fashion that he managed to do it in and how good he looked in that fight. I think he's really separated himself from the crowd. But the Borralho fight, I didn't even see that one coming, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Sign me up.
Now then, there's going to be chat about what happens next with Israel Adesanya. That is 3 on the spin that he's lost. Obviously, 2 title fights in the one at the weekend, the main event against Imavov. He says, listen, I'm going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to go away. I'm going to think about it. I spoke to him last week, and he said, I'm not going to be one of these guys that just keeps doing it and keeps chasing it, keeps hoping. If it's not there, it's not there. That's when I'll call time. He's obviously got to come to peace with that. What do you think happens next?
Right. So here's my take on the Israel Adesanya situation, right? Israel Adesanya has been competing in combat sports. Let's take MMA out of the occasion. Before that, he was a world-class kickboxer. He's also had professional boxing matches. Do you know how many fights and how many camps this man has had? Do you know how much money this man must have in his bank now and his assets? I heard he's very smart with his investments and things like that. He's at a very difficult stage now. People like Imavov are starving at him. They're absolutely chomping at the bit. Caio Borralho chomping at the bit. Khamzat Chimaev chomping at the bit. I just don't see Adesanya chomping at the bit anymore. I feel like he's had an unbelievable amount of fights for a guy of, I believe he's 35. I think personally, after, the way it ended, also the way it ended against Dricus, you don't want to be that guy that was a champion and then gets TKO'd back to back to back to back. Personally, I would like to see Adesanya hang it up because he's got nothing more to prove in this sport. I put him as the second best, just behind Anderson Silva. I've admired his work for a hell of a long time, and I would love to see him ride off into the sunset and enjoy it because he's been one of the most active and consistent champions for a hell of a long time. And I think it's time for a rest. I do.
Yeah, it is a very, very tough place for him. It's also a very, very tough place for fans because we're emotionally connected to Izzy. You've just talked about his activity level. Since he came into the UFC in February 2018, he's averaged. I know that he's slowed down over the last 2 years. He's only had one fight last year, one fight year before, and obviously only one fight this year. But even with that, he's still averaging three and a half fights a year. It's ridiculous. When he was at his pomp, he was out there 4 times a year defending, and we're not talking Mickey Mouse fights. We're talking championship defenses, going up in weight to take on the likes of Jan Blachowicz. Then, of course, the energy that was required to avenge the Poatan situation. He was winning the first Poatan fight against. He was cruising it, and it was only in the last round that Pereira puts it on him and knocks him out. And then to summon the energy to go again, put himself back in the fire, and then get the victory in the rematch, that takes a lot out of a human being, a lot of energy. And I think he left a lot of himself inside the octagon that night, of which we've seen in his displays against Sean and Dricus since. And obviously, even against Dimavov at the weekend, I actually thought he looked really, really good until he ends up getting clipped and gets finished. The thing is, this is a decision purely for Israel Adesanya to come to terms with. He is going in the Hall of Fame. There is absolutely no doubt about that. If he wants to carry on, and from a purely selfish point of view as a fan, I want to see it. He makes me feel a certain way. I love it. I love an Israel Adesanya fight week. I love the way that he talks. I love the way that he is with the media. I love watching him walk out. I love watching him fight. And like I said, it's not like he looked washed at the weekend. He won the first round. He looked good. He got clipped. That's what happened. There's fights out there for him if he wants them. But if this is the last time that we see him, think about it. When he stepped in on debut and delivered that killer speech, there's a new dog in the yard. His moments with Anderson Silva. I'm willing to die against Kelvin Gastelum. The walkout in Australia. The performance against Robert Whittaker. What he did to Paulo Costa and avenging the loss against Poatan. If that's the last time, Israel Adesanya, thank you. What a ride. Phenomenal. A one of one, unique, never to be repeated. Sensational stuff, mate.
No, listen, I'm 100% on your side, but what I would hate to see, Adam, is we've already seen one TKO against Dricus, yeah? Then we've seen the second.
Well, he got subbed.
TKO.
He got subbed against Dricus.
Oh, sorry, my bad. But he was dropped, punched down. You know, I think you're in agreement with me. Are you in agreement right now? So rewind 3 years, maybe 5 years. I think we're both in agreement that doesn't happen to the Adesanya of 3 to 5 years ago. I believe we are seeing certain holes in the game now popping up.
Are we?
Not massive
or are we seeing the involvement of the division? Because they're getting better. They're getting bigger and they're getting better, mate. Imavov's elite. Really, really, really good. Parallo coming through. Look at the size of that man. He's absolutely sensational. You've got Chimaev, who's a sensational. Dricus, as everybody looks at Dricus and they go, I don't know what that is, but it's working. Different problem. It's just a different problem, isn't it? 5 years ago, like you say, he was lapping the division against the elite guys, the likes of the Robs, the likes of the Costas, all them. He was lapping the division. I just think Father Time waits for no man.
Yeah.
And the involvement of the next 185er, he's maybe just a step too far. That's all it is. I think there's fights out there for him. Don't get me wrong. What I will agree with you on is that maybe the time at championship level, maybe that's gone. Maybe that has gone. But I think if Izzy wants to fight on, I'm not going to argue with him, mate, because I just love watching him fight. And I think there's fights out there for him.
No, 100%, I'm with you. But then I'll go back to my original point here. What we started on was this man has a ridiculous amount of combat experience, Adam. Ridiculous. No, ridiculous. Like, he makes... Like, he's on 100+ fights. Like, that takes its toll at 35 years of age. 100+. And I personally... You know, watching from the outside, as a fan, you're like, yeah, let's keep watching him fight, whatever. But when I take into consideration, because, you know, I know his coach is Frank and that, and, you know, so I know a bit of inside information, and then I look at 100+ fights, and then I look at the TKO on the weekend, and I think, mate, you're probably worth 20, 30 mil at this point. Do you know what I mean? Like, have a little chill, get a pina colada, put your feet up. That's the side I'm looking at it from a fighter's perspective.
No, and I think that's an incredibly sensible way of looking at it, mate. And like you say, you're on that inside, you felt the things that he's feeling, maybe feeling those
Yeah.
things that he's feeling right now. So therefore, that decision, I think it's an important decision, not one to be rushed. Take your time, go and enjoy yourself a little bit, have a little bit of a look, see how it all shakes out. Because there's a lot of middleweight fights coming up. Let's see how it all shakes out. And if that fire's still burning in 6 months' time, let's get the last style bender back in that octagon, man. Let's have another go.
There you go. Let's start this veterans division me and you were talking about. Let's put them in against. Let's get some fun ones going, Adam. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. That's it. We'll see what happens with Izzy. But listen, fantastic performance from Nasruddin Imavov. Absolutely sticking his head above that parapet. That's what we need in these divisions. The new guys to come through and make some big statements. I think him and Barallo's the next fight. Khamzat for the winner of the whatever happens at 312. 185, he's well and truly in a good place. Speaking of 185 being in a good place, Michael Venom Page is now messing about at middleweight, isn't he? Comes up in weight, takes on Shara Bullet and hands him his first defeat. I tell you what, if you love striking, if you love the nuances of striking, if you love watching someone just make someone dance to the tune that they want to put out there, watch Michael Venom Page against Shara Bullet. Unbelievable amount of feinting, never repeating the same pattern, and bamboozling an elite level kickboxer in Shara Bullet. I thought Michael Venom Page was absolutely fantastic, mate.
Yeah, and I feel like, with all the hype that Shara Bullet had coming into this fight and the massive underdog that they put Michael Venom Page as, I was thinking, wow, what's going on here? And it was a bit of a Michael Venom Page coming out party, I believe. We've seen it against Kevin Holland, what he's capable of, but I feel like he really reminded everyone who he is in this fight. And I was so happy for Michael. Great for UK MMA. Great for Michael. And, some of them hook kicks that he was landing on the way in and just some of the beautiful techniques that Michael uses. Really elite and efficient striker, and possibly the best striker in the UFC on his day. I mean, the way he times some of that stuff, it's absolutely incredible to watch. And I'd personally like to see him at middleweight now. I enjoy Michael Venom Page at middleweight, and there's some really fun fights. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Robert Whittaker, Michael Venom Page? Do you know what I mean? Them type of fights are just exciting, aren't they?
Oof, that is naughty. That is naughty. Mate, I couldn't agree more with you. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Even in the grappling exchanges in the first round, I thought he stuffed what Shara wanted to do very, very well. His range control, he must be a nightmare to be in the octagon with, because you don't know when he's coming. You can get a read on certain people's patterns with the way that they feint stuff, and you think, right, okay, he's doing that a lot. Cool. It's taken me about 5 minutes to figure it out, but here we go. Now I know what he's going to do. You never know when Michael Venom Page is going to come. Sometimes he just comes consistently, then he stops for ages, then he'll just keep feinting, and you think, you're watching Shara, and he's like this, he's biting on absolutely everything that is being thrown at him. His head must have been burnt out by the end of the fight.
No, I know, well, two different people that have been personal sparring partners of Michael Venom Page. I've never actually sparred him, but they told me they've sparred everyone, and they said he's the worst person to spar. They said you can't get near him, you can't do anything with him. And then the jiu-jitsu coach over here at TK rolled with him, and he said, mate, I've never felt a grip like it when he grabs hold of your wrist. He said, I just couldn't get him off. I think he's very underrated. Michael, and I think give him the right fight, i.e. Shara Bullet, someone who's going to strike with him and not try and make it a boring wrestling match. You will see the best of him, and that's what we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. He, pre that fight at the weekend, he went into a grappling competition against Carlos Condit, and beat him.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's
he participated in Polaris just to improve, because what happened, if you look at his first couple of fights in the UFC, people nullify him with wrestling. Like Ian Gary, with all due respect, nullified him with grappling exchanges, didn't he?
He did.
And Kevin Holland tried to do that, but obviously Michael comes through in that particular fight. So what he went away and did, he just, touched up his grappling, went into a Polaris competition, ended up fighting Carlos Condit and beat Carlos Condit. There you go. Just thought I'd drop that in there. But that kind of lends to what you were saying there about his underrated grappling in MMA. His striking, though, is absolutely outrageous. Interesting that you've just said there, stay at middleweight. I think he can be one of them guys that just floats between both, mate.
Agreed.
When the opportunity comes, go on, then I'll jump on that, or I'll jump on this. Because if you beat Shara Bullet, who was, I think, 14th in the middleweight division, and you rank 14 yourself at welterweight, you're in a great position, aren't you? big opportunities, that phone call is going to come, and you just jump in as and when.
The doors are wide open right now. I know what is he, Adam? 40? Is he 40? He's
No, he's
close to
37.
40, right?
Yeah, he's 37. Yeah.
Right, okay. 37. So, sorry, Michael. But now I believe he's at that stage in his career. Let's have some fun with it, man. Like, let's have some fun matchups, like the Sharon Bullock matchup, i.e. Robert Whittaker. What about Carlos Paredes? People like that, I'm pulling them out today, Adam. They're the type of fights I want to see as a fan. And if Michael wants to bounce around, put him in. I'd love to see him fight in London. I don't know if it's too quick of a turnaround, but let's stick him in London and let's see what happens, because Michael's always going to give you entertainment, isn't
he? He's just converted to Islam, so I think he's going to go through Ramadan. So maybe London's a touch too early, okay. But April, May, something like that, mate. Absolutely, get him straight back out, get him doing his thing. Yeah. April's Miami, innit? Could get him on that Miami card, because I think he's got a lot of family out there in Florida. Get him on that. What did you make of the heavyweights, pal? Pavlovich and Rosenstruik.
I mean, Dana said it best, didn't he? I'll take the words of Dana White. It was interesting, to be polite. It was interesting. I'll leave that one out about you.
Well, Tom Aspinall took to social media straight away, and I can't repeat on the show what he said. He just said, listen, what's going on with these heavyweights? Basically insinuating that it were rubbish. Let's just make the fight that everybody wants to see. John, yes. Where are you, son? Let's get this thing cracking. I think
nobody's putting their hand up in that division, are they? You've got Tom Aspinall, the clear number one, like head and shoulders. The gap is astronomical right now between Tom and the rest.
Yeah.
And now it's like nobody else is putting in any performances. No one's jumping off the paper. There's only one fight to make. We've mentioned it 10,000 times.
Yeah.
Without that fight,
heavyweights.
I mean, where does it leave everyone?
Listen, Almeida stuck his head up a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? And he put in a decent performance, but we think that probably points him towards a Cyril Gann. Let them two have a dance there. Pavlovich and Rosenstruik at the weekend was a weird one, because I thought that the Pavlovich-Volkov performance was basically down to just Volkov evolving, them two being former sparring partners, and Volkov just having his number. Whereas at the weekend, I watched Pavlovich and Rosenstruik, and I saw a very tentative Pavlovich again. And this is obviously off the back of being blasted by Tom. It's amazing what a defeat like that can do to somebody. It makes people shot shy. It makes people a little bit reserved. The confidence that they have when they're running through people. I think he had 5 straight first-round knockouts or something, didn't he? That gives you this incredible amount of confidence. You're the man. You're invincible. We'll get in there and we'll go and do our thing. When somebody does it back to you, just makes you second-guess yourself. And at elite-level MMA, if you're second-guessing yourself, even by a split second, then you put in tentative performances. And I thought, listen, he wins. He gets his hand raised. He comes out of it. But what Tom did to him has absolutely affected Sergey Pavlovich. He is not the same ferocious animal that he was 18 months ago. And it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get back. That'll give him a lot of confidence, but not as much confidence as a knockout victory would have done, because I thought he was a little bit tentative in what he was doing, mate.
No, I agree. And Rosenstruik can also be like that. I've seen certain fights with him.
Well, Francis did the same thing to him, didn't he? Francis blasted him. And he's been the same since.
No, but when I say blasted him, that was a horrendous knockout, wasn't it? Like, these two men have been in the trenches for a long time, so I feel like when you get these sort of performances, they're definitely gun shy now. That heavyweight division, them two have been blasted, like, big time. We're looking at two guys that have been in a heavyweight division for a hell of a long time, and we watched a tentative fight. And you can kind of expect it from guys who have been on the receiving end of stuff, what Tom and Ngannou have put them under. Like, it's only human nature to be put in them certain positions and then be tentative about it. So that's what we've seen. Like you say, the division needs one fight only. And we're hearing these talks going on, so let's just hope it gets done. Just for the sake of the heavyweight division, everyone, please.
Mate, just for the sake of this show, so we can talk about something else. That's
Exactly. Exactly.
Here, what's going on? 2025, he's letting the world know that the Nurmagomedovs are human. That's right. We've seen Umar, obviously, fall short to Merab. Paul Hughes pushes Usman all the way. And Saeed at the weekend is on the wrong end of a defeat to Vinicius Oliveira. big fan of Oliveira. I thought first round, okay, it didn't go his way, but the changes that he made within the fight, I think he's a contender at bantamweight, pal.
Yeah, he really is. And you know what? I was super impressed with his range control. He's just vicious Brazilian. Do you know what I mean? And like, I feel like it's interesting you say that now because we're only in January. We just turned into February, and there has been a certain catch up, hasn't there? Nobody thought Umar was going to lose, did they? Nobody thought Usman was going to get pushed to a wire, did they? And now we've seen another one. That's three. Considering we didn't see any really last year, that is an interesting fact. And maybe it is. Maybe people are catching up to the Dagestani style now. Maybe there is a catch up going on. But that's to take nothing away from the performance. Incredible performance. And you're definitely a contender, for sure. I love his style.
Yeah, fantastic performances in Saudi. Anything else catch your eye from Saudi Arabia before we get stuck into everything that's going on in Oz?
Do I believe that was the first ever UFC in Saudi? Sorry.
They were in Saudi last year, but this is the biggest thing that they've done, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, when Ronaldo and Turkey Al Sheikh are having a bit of a rock down at Octagon side, mate, it's a big one.
That's what I mean. It's getting interesting now with the whole, because it was Abu Dhabi for the longest time on it, and now we've got Saudi putting the finger in. So I think with the money that's getting knocked around in Saudi, mate, I really think that there's some big fights could be starting getting made over there. Do you know what I mean? I think it's an exciting new market. Me and you have personally been there together, haven't we? It's got a long way to go, but I feel like it's an interesting market.
Yeah, absolutely. This weekend, Sydney is the destination. I know that the UFC have been back to Australia since COVID, but Sydney is a place that they kind of built their reputation on in Australia, and this is the first time for a long time that they've rocked up in Sydney. Dricus du Plessis will be defending his middleweight crown against Sean Strickland in a rematch. This time, just over a year ago, isn't it? When they went at it the first time around. A very close fight, which Dricus won and ended up winning the championship. And since then, he's obviously beaten Israel Adesanya. Sean Strickland went away and beat Paulo Costa, and we find ourselves back here again for the middleweight championship. We've got Zhang Wei Li taking on Tatiana Suarez, also in a title fight as your co-main event, and then a host of local talent taking on some others as well, which we're going to highlight in a moment or two. But first and foremost, main event. Is it the rematch that you wanted to see straight away?
I think this card's a really tough sell. Looking at it from top to bottom, Adam, I just do. Nothing is diving out of the page at me, and I think this is a tough pay-per-view to sell. I mean, let's have it right. The Aussies absolutely love MMA. You could put anyone on. You could put me and you on, and we'd sell it out in Sydney. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just
you.
Just love it,
maybe not me, mate. Maybe not me. Maybe not me.
But when I look at this card, it's a tough sell. We've already seen the fight before. First one wasn't uber exciting. So let's see. I mean, I've been wrong in the past. This could be one of them ones where there's just knockout after knockout. But looking at it up and down, it looks like a tough sell.
I think there will be moments that do deliver, like you've just said. I think there will be knockouts. I'm just looking at some of the guys and girls that are on this, and there is talent on there. They just don't have the profile name value. That's what it is. I think the main event isn't. When you think of the way that the two lads in the main event fight, and you look at the first fight that they had together, yeah, it was a close fight, but it wasn't Rock'em Sock'em Barnstormer. Yeah. Wow, this is amazing. That's not what that was. It was a tight fight, and it was 3-2 in favour of either guy. That's what it was. And you can't really see it stylistically being any different this time around. They're not going to change the styles, are they? Sean Strickland is still going to stand in front of you. He's going to keep walking you forward. He's going to keep throwing kicks up the middle, and he's going to keep jabbing like that in it. That's what Sean Strickland's going to do. And Dricus is going to be winging away, throwing his bombs away. You never know. There might be some wrestling exchanges in there, bit of grappling, whatever. But I think it's going to be a tight fight, and it's probably going to go 25 minutes because they're both proper tough SOBs.
100% agree with you. Like the first one was a tight one down the line. There's much, in my opinion, no disrespect to them, there's much more exciting fights in that division to be had.
Yeah.
And that I am looking forward to more than this. Sean Strickland, always exciting, will always walk forward, stick it on you, not give you a second to breathe. Did it to Dricus last time. Dricus managed to weather it. Will he do it again? I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see, Adam. Hopefully, this has, it's slightly different from the first one. We see a bit more damage, bit more. He gets dropped, I get
You want a
dropped. I'm in
moment.
it for.
Yeah, you want a
I'm in it
moment,
for
don't you?
all that.
Yeah.
That's what we're in it for. We're in it for these moments, and the last fight just didn't have it.
Women's strawweight, Zhang Weili, who I personally think is the best female fighter on the planet, bar Dakota Achiever. Just put her to one side. But in the UFC, I think it's Zhang Weili. And then she's taking on Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez, if she pulls this off at the weekend, it could be one of the greatest UFC stories ever. I mean, this woman, for those that don't know too much about her, she's had an incredible life, not just career. Comes from a grappling background, but she battled cancer, beat cancer. She's now in a situation where she's undefeated in MMA. She's on this unbelievable tear in this division, and now she finds herself in a title fight against Zhang Weili. I just think that she's not rounded enough. I mean, she's got a brilliant trick. If she gets older, Zhang Weili, it's going to get interesting because the way that she can move through grappling exchanges and put them chokes on, I think is top class. But Zhang, every single time I watch her fight, she levels up. She's getting better and better and better every single time. Even in defeat, she goes away, she works on whatever she needs to work on, and she comes back and does the business. I think Zhang Weili, the only thing I could probably poke at her coming into this fight is maybe activity level. We haven't seen her since UFC 300, so that's since last April, so it's nearly a year.
Yeah.
But I think her striking's brilliant. I think her grappling's getting much, much better, her wrestling. I think Zhang Weili will be a step, maybe just a touch too far for Tatiana Suarez at the weekend. But if Tatiana can get her hands on her, then we've got a fight.
100% agree with you. I think she is pound for pound the best woman fighter on the planet right now. Been in the room with her for many years. She's at Bangtao full time. And just watching her train, Adam, and seeing what she does on a day-to-day basis, how hard she trains. She's got a full team around her, 5 or 6 people that just follow her around every day. And then watching her performances in the cage, she's an incredible talent to watch. Very tough fight for Tatiana, stepping up 5 levels here, in my opinion. But it's a bit of new fresh blood for Zhang Weili, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah. I'm tipping. Listen, I know that we shouldn't do predictions on this with people watching our show, but I'm tipping 2 hand stills in Australia. Do you see anything different?
I think Strickland might be able to steal it this time.
Do you?
With the first one being so close, maybe he can overwhelm him this time. Who knows? It's such a tight fight, that one.
Yeah.
I think Zhang Weili, in my eyes, if I was to give a prediction, I would definitely go Zhang Weili. But in that, I think that the main event's a coin flip. Okay. I do.
Mate, listen, I said at the start, don't I? It's a tight fight, but I just think Dricus will edge it in some way. Yep. There's something about Dricus's mentality. He's just horrible, isn't he? Absolute horrible. And I'm not saying that Sean won't, but I think he'll go to depths in order to get the job done. Right. Let's have some fun with this because, the name value and the things that get you off your seat aren't necessarily there, but I genuinely think there'll be some fights that do deliver. Justin Taffer taking on Taliesin Teixeira. Now then, Taffer, he's not the most skilled fella in the world, but he's hard as nails and he can whack, right? Brilliant. Who doesn't want to see someone from Samoan descent having a bit of a fight in Australia, right? So give that a tick. And he's taking on this mad Brazilian in Taliesin Teixeira. Came through the contender series. Don't get me wrong. We see it all the time. Guys go to the UFC, they find the level of the UFC. And it might be just a touch too far for him early doors. Teixeira's not been at this level, right? And he's straight into a pay-per-view main card. Reason why he's there is because he knocks people out. He's got an unbelievable knockout ratio. He's 6'5", 6'7", whatever he is. He's a big old boy. He's a proper heavyweight. He's in there to throw down with Taffer. This ain't going more than 5 minutes. There you go. I'm giving it kiss of death. I've touched the wood. Mate, neither of them are massively skilled. So they're either going to look at each other for 5 minutes and then it's going to drag on, or they're just going to go bombs away. And one of them's going to get it on the whiskers and go over. That's what's going to happen.
I mean, yeah, I've seen Taffer. Taffer's, mate, I watched him spar Darren Till. I remember that spar. I've seen it. Yeah, honestly, I was there for that one. He got a bit of pro boxing experience as well. And he does like a little scrap, mate. So listen, put someone in front of him that's willing to have a little swing. They'll have a swing.
Jimmy Crute's returned. Now, this is an interesting one for Jimmy Crute because he was one of the hottest prospects in MMA, and then the wheels have kind of fallen off this, and he's taking on Rodolfo Bellato. Bellato's not been in the octagon as well for best part of 15 months, I think. Definitely didn't fight last year. Jimmy Crute hasn't won an MMA fight since October 2020. Right? So we're coming up to, 4.5, 5 years without a win. Granted, he hasn't fought for 2 of those years, and the level of guys that have beaten him are good lads, really good lads. But he's on a skid. He was talking about retirement. He's cleared off, got in a blooming camper van, cleared off around Australia, done whatever he's needed to do to clear his head. And now he's back this weekend for the first time in a long time. Big pressure. At home, pay-per-view, main card. Is it there? We're going to find out on Saturday night.
What do you think?
I think it's... Do you know something? The thing that gives me faith is Dominic Reyes. Because Dom Reyes did this. He was on an unbelievable tear. Then he walked into Yuri with that spinning back. He walked into Jon, got beat off Jon. Then he got smashed off Yuri. Then he lost another. And then he took some time off, went away, got himself straight, came back, different version of himself, different mentality, got back into the win column then. And I thought, okay, cool. It can work. So from a Jimmy Crute point of view, this is what's going on between his ears. Talent's there, mate. I've seen it. I've seen the talent. It's what's going on between his ears. If he can just realign his thoughts and get into a rhythm of a fight, and I think it's a good matchup because the guy that he's fighting, he's been out for a period of time as well. I think he can. I think he'll be. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be shot shy. I think he's going to be a bit tentative. What we've just been speaking about with the Pavlovich fight from Saudi Arabia. But if he can eke through a win, then he might be able to get back on the track. But it's a tough ask. You know how tough this game is, mate. Once your brain's telling you different things and you're a little bit hesitant, it's a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, 4.5 years, nearly, it's a hell of a long time in it. And, you know, it's one of them situations now where has this head clearing situation took him one way or the other?
Yeah.
And there's only one way to find that out. And what a lot of pressure to be in, you know, Sydney, massive crowd, going berserk. And you're in that middle ground of have I got it and I ain't got it. And you know what an interesting fight this is going to be to watch with them stats.
Kicking off the main card, you've got Jake Matthews and Francisco Prado. The reason why it's there is because they're both lunatics. And it might just be absolute fireworks from the get-go. Prado's 1-2 in the UFC, Argentinian kid. But he's a hellraiser. There's no real, I'll wait and see what's happening. Let's have it. And I think Jake Matthews, the Jake Matthews story is unreal, man. He came into MMA as a teenager. He's only 30. He's only 30 years of age and he's still going. So he's here to get the party started. Pay-per-view kicks on. There you go, Jake. Get this party started, and we're going to give you a hellraiser across from you who's going to answer it. If you go, he's going to go with you. So I think it could be a crack at that. I know they're not massive names for the people that are watching our show, but I think that could be an absolute cracker, mainly because Jake Matthews is an Aussie. He's been in the game for a long, long period of time.
Yeah.
And he's a hellraiser as well.
I mean, that's just shocked me that he's 30 years old. I feel like he's been in the UFC. How long has he been in the UFC?
11 years, mate. He came in at 18. I think he was 18 years of age when he came in. 19 years of age.
Now look at that for a stat. That is what you call experience. He's only just getting to the peak of his, physical presence, and he's already been in the UFC 11 years. I mean, what an interesting fact that is. Do you know what I mean? So I love watching him fight. He's must-see TV. Every time I see his name on the card, I make sure I tune in for a Jake Matthews fight. He's a legend, and I love watching him fight. Seems like we've got a good opponent here for him, so let's see.
Yeah. A couple of things to keep an eye on the prelims. Wang Tong is back. If you remember the Joker, I think we previewed her fight in Singapore, and she was the big hot next thing, and she ended up getting knocked out in that fight. This is her first fight back. She's taking on Bruna Brazil, one of the fighting nerds. Interesting to see how she bounces back. She could be a superstar, Wang Tong, so it's going to be interesting to see how she bounces back in that fight. And then this is the thing that you absolutely need to keep an eye on the prelims. Colby Thickness is taking on Alexandre Topuria. Yes, Ilya's brother, right? Now, this is the beautiful thing about it. because it's a replacement opponent. Thickness has come in on the last-minute shout. In Colby Thickness's corner will be a certain Alexander Volkanovski, because Alexander Volkanovski looks after Colby Thickness and trains him, and they're all working out the same gym. Obviously, in the corner of Alexander Topuria will be a certain Ilya Topuria. That's right. Former foes, rumoured to be fighting each other in the upcoming months in April, are going to be in opposing corners, cornering their charges going into the fight. Eh?
There's an interesting one, but I'll give you a little fact from the inside. I know a lad that I was sparring for my previous fight that has sparred both of them two, and he reckons that the brother's better. He said, I'm telling you now, the brother is better. I said, nah. He said, you wait and watch him fight. So I am really excited for this one, mate, because come from a valid source, somebody who's been in the cage with them both. I know it's the training room and it's different, but if he's even 50% of his brother Adam, we're all in for a treat, aren't we?
He's a very calm guy, is Alexander. I've seen a lot of him because obviously of Ilya's rise, he's his chief corner, he's his head coach, isn't he? So I've been around him a bit. I've not really paid too much attention to his own fighting career. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's all about. Imagine if he rocks up and he does the business against Colby Thickness at the weekend, mate, and sets the place on fire. Fingers crossed, off the back of the fight, whatever happens, both Mr. Volkanovski and Mr. Topuria Sr., they get in the middle of the octagon, they go nose to nose, and everybody says, these lads are fighting in April. Let's do it.
I can see it now anyway. We can see it, can't we?
Yeah, we're on the horizon. All in all, I agree with what you said, mate. It isn't necessarily the fight card with the fight names that jump off, but we've been here many times with the UFC. How many times have we done this where we looked at the card and gone, I don't know. And then all of a sudden you come back on Sunday morning, you put it on with your Cocoa Pops and you think, what the flipping heck is happening here? Carnage everywhere.
Oh, would you? 100% agree. I think it's a really tough sell, up and down. I'll say it every time, and hopefully I'm wrong, because I don't want to sit through 3 or 4 hours of something that's a tough sell. So let's see. Let's just come on, lads. It's Sydney, Australia. Yeah, we know yous love it. You know the crowd's going to be the third man in the octagon. Let's get it going, lads. Come on, give us something to chat about.
Give us something to chat about on a Monday morning next week. There you go. Get yourself stuck into the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. There'll be plenty of stuff coming your way throughout the course of the week as we build up towards UFC 312. Vanessa, who normally joins us on a Saturday evening on Fight Night, is in Australia. So fingers crossed she's going to be getting some interviews with the runners and riders out there, and we'll get them on the MMA YouTube channel for you. Like I said, like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you next time.